What's the earliest memory that you have?
I remember my dad holding me. I was maybe a year or so old because my grandfather died out in Wilkes-Barre. And my dad was holding me in the backyard and I was talking, and Aunt Frances was talking, or I don't know what the conversation was, but that's the earliest thing.
This is my grandmother, Barbara Nissley. I met with her at her home in Mount Penn in the summer of 2013 to ask her about her life. Since getting this footage, I haven't done much with it, but decided, since her passing last week, what better way to remember her strong, loving character and to celebrate her life.
My grandfather died when I was a year old. I was born in 37 and he died in 38.
Okay. 37.
And that's
where at were you born?
I was born down in Chester County. Actually, it was Kenilworth. It was part of Chester County at that time. And now it's part of Montgomery County.
Okay. How far is that from here, from this house?
I don't know. Down near Pottstown.
Oh, okay. Not too far.
No.
Alright. And what schools did you go to growing up?
We went to Upper Gibraltar. It was a one-room schoolhouse. And the school teacher was Mrs. Millard. And Mrs. Millard was just a wonderful teacher. We lived on a farm. It was 110 acres my dad bought. It was called Hannah Kurtz Farm. And it's on Hannah Kurtz Road.
Oh.
And when we were little, we used to pack a lunch. Sometimes it was ketchup sandwiches or mustard sandwiches. Or if my dad made scrapple, we'd have scrapple sandwiches.
What's scrapple? I don't know what that
It's like made with cereal and I don't remember what it's all made with, corn mush and stuff like that. We also made corn mush too, and we'd eat that too. But that was the main thing. I don't remember too much about lunch because there wasn't much lunch meat around when we were children growing up at that time. We'd go to the one-room schoolhouse and and when it got warm weather out, we would sit outside on the bank and eat our lunch. You know, they didn't have plastic wrap, we had wax paper then.
Oh, really?
We had to wrap our
That's right.
sandwiches in wax paper. Once in a while we'd get an orange because the orange cart was in Reading. It was called a come by rail. And it was in Reading and everybody'd be down there buying oranges. My mom would get them once in a while, but well, you just couldn't always do it. You didn't have the money. My mother had 10 children.
Oh, wow.
The oldest brother died when he was 2 months old. He had pneumonia. In 1927, they didn't have too much to save lives then like they do today. My sister Kathleen was born in 1930. My brother Jack was born in 31. Richard and his twin brother were born in 32. My brother Leroy lives in Boston. He was born in 34. And the next year my brother Donald was born. In 37 I was born. And 2 years later my brother Bill was born. 12 years later my sister Karen was born.
Wow. Wait a second, let me...
But the farm was a nice place. We liked it. It had a lot of fruit trees. It had a sour tree orchard, grapes. Oh my goodness, it was loaded with different places where grapes were. And my brothers and us, we used to go out and we'd eat grapes off the vine all morning and then we'd have diarrhea all afternoon. Didn't know what was going wrong. We did some dumb things when we were kids. My brother Leroy was something else. He was always doing something to me or my brother Billy. Like one time we went up in the woods and we were going to play cowboys and Indians. And my brother Billy and I, because we were younger, Leroy and Donald were older, and they would tie us up. We were the Indians, I guess, and we got tied up to a tree. And they'd go running off, and we'd sit there and bawl and carry on till finally they'd come back and untie us and play, because we were sissies. We used to play Barley Over, a game that was over the chicken house. Two would stand on the other side of the barn and of the chicken house, and we would stand on this side. And it was always my brother Billy and I against Donald and Leroy, who were older. And I used to complain because I thought it wasn't fair. One of Leroy or Donald should have been on my side, and the other should be with Billy, and they wouldn't hear of it. So what you do with Barley Over is you throw the ball over the roof, and if you hear it thud on the ground, you knew you were safe. And if you didn't hear the thud, you run like the devil because they threw the ball at you when you came around the corner. And sometimes we wouldn't hear it, or they would hit it on the wall, make so they hit the ground and then come around and throw the ball at us, and they could throw it hard. Billy and I would run like the devil because we knew that they weren't kind when it came to throwing that ball. Oh yeah, we had chickens, and I remember once I went in the chicken house, and when I was little, there was a white rooster in there. I hate white roosters because they're mean. And that rooster was chasing me. My dad came out, and he came running after me and kicked the rooster, That was the end of it. We had a spring house, which was about a block away from my house, down the road. And I didn't, but my brothers and sisters would have to go down and get the milk or whatever was down there, butter. And we had a cow named Judy, and Judy had a calf named Susie. And my dad went in the barn. He wanted to take Susie away from the cow and put her in the stall next. Well, Judy didn't like that too much. She went after my dad. She butted him. He ran up the hill. He went across the road and up the hill and down toward the house. There grew an apple tree out of the bank like this. You could run right up it,
Wow.
So he ran up there as far as he could go. That Judy wouldn't go up because it was not a safe, it was something that she didn't feel safe on. He hollered for Jack to come get Judy and put her back in the barn. So Jack had to go get her. We used to play horse with jar lids. My mom used to have those galvanized jar lids with glass in the middle, and we'd walk around like on our knees and our hoofs. These were our hoofs. We used the jars as the shoes, horseshoes. My mom used to get mad at us because we used her jar lids. Farm. My parents moved a lot. Some of my brothers and sisters were born in Pottstown. I was born in Kenilworth. My brother Billy was born in Plowville, which is down near Birdsville. And Karen was born in Reading. I just remember a little bit about Plowville because I was pretty little. I might have been only 2 or 3 years old maybe. And I think it's when I think I remember when my brother Billy was born. I had to go to school with my sister that day. They put me in the seat behind her. And somebody gave me crayons and pencil or something, I don't remember. That's the only thing I remember about that. I can remember our neighbors were Langs, and they lived across the creek. And they were nice neighbors. But I was just little. With school, I remember when I went to school at one of the schools. Mrs. Millard was very kind, and I remember one boy, Linwood Cole. He caught a mouse one time and tied the tail to the bell so she wouldn't ring the bell. And of course, she she hollered at him to get that mouse off of there. And he says, why? Devil he was. But he did, he untied it and left it go. She used to take us out in the woods too and show us what was edible out there. There's some birch trees. You could actually, when they're young, you could actually eat the bark off of it. And it tastes just like birch beer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and root thing, anise, the wild anise grew. And she was always good that way. She liked to take us for walks in the woods.
How long did you have her as a teacher?
She was from 1st to 8th grade, but I was only there, I was 7 when I started growing lumps on my arms. I was in 2nd grade on my wrists, and they didn't know what it was. They used to stick needles in there and then draw this yellowy orange stuff out, looked like the yolk of an egg. And by the time I was 8 or 9, I guess I was in the Children's Hospital in Philadelphia, and they said I had Still's disease. And I can remember 2 young interns came and drew my skeleton on the back, and then they took me down into a big auditorium, and there was doctors and interns, and they mostly, I guess, interns. But they had to write a report what they thought, and they found that I had Still's disease, which is different forms of arthritis and other things that went with it. Your mom knows more about that than I do. Anyway, as the report went, because Still's disease, most children don't live to be teenagers. And some wrote that if I lived to be a teenager, I'd never have children. And if I had a child, I would wind up in a wheelchair the rest of my life. So I bypassed all that.
Yeah, you did.
But I missed a lot of school because of that. Every Friday I'd have to go to the doctor and get what they called gold shots, 1 in each hip. And it was a big needle and they'd stick it in. But by the time I was 12, we went to a different doctor, medical doctor, and he said if that gold shot hasn't helped till now, he said it never will, it's not going to do any good. So we stopped going there. My brother Richard died on the farm. He was 10, and he and my brother Jack were playing with matches, and it was a hot day. I don't remember if it was August or September. It was hot and dry, and it was a picnic day because all my uncles were there, my grandmother, and they were there for the picnic, and some man asked them for matches, that he had a pipe and he wanted the matches. And so they came back and got the matches for the man, and they took them out. And when the man was done, he handed it back to him. And I guess they were playing with him. The next thing you know, one was still lit. And it caught the field on fire, and it went, took off, that fire. And somebody saw the smoke, and next thing you know, my dad's dragging shovels and burlap bags out because it was just a little creek, a stream that went through between where the boys were and where my dad came from. So they went running over, and Richard must have fell and hit his head or something, and he was unconscious. And my dad ran in and carried him out, and he wound up going to the hospital. He was there for 6 months before he died. His leg was in a big tent. I think your mom has all those pictures of Richard. And his leg, I remember, looked like a black snake. He had to cut his belt off to get it off of his skin and his shoes. Yeah, and he died. I just remember them putting him down in the hole. I was 5 or 6 when he died. And that's, I just remember seeing that. Yeah.
How old was he?
10.
He was 10.
Yeah. But his twin had already died when at birth, so it was just him then. Yeah, and then my mom couldn't stand to live there anymore. So we moved into Reading on South 9th Street. And she opened up a flower shop and bridal gown shop. My dad had tuxedos. And she started selling jewelry, for bridesmaids and things. And we lived there about 4 or 5 years. None of us, I don't think we liked living in the city too much. Although my best friends lived in the city, Nancy and Joan. We used to have a good time. We'd go to the movies on a Saturday, 10 cents to go to a day. We'd be there all day. We'd be there sometimes till it got dark out.
10 cents and you could watch as many movies
Yeah,
as you wanted?
only when the ushers would come, you'd go underneath the seats and nobody'd see you. But coming home one night, we were watching Frankenstein. In those days, that was scary. So in Reading, they had archways between the houses that would go back into the yards.
Mhm.
We were scared to death to walk on the sidewalk. We walked out in the street because we didn't want anything coming out after us. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and they were my best friends. They're both gone. They both died. Well, Nancy died before she was 50. And Joan died, I guess she was about 54 or 55.
That's young.
Yeah, that was young for them. Yeah. Well, Joan drank soda. She drank Pepsi all her life. She had to have Pepsi first thing in the morning and a cigarette. That's all she lived on was Pepsis and cigarettes. And I think that's what finally killed her was her stomach. So I know she had stomach trouble. Oh, let's see. What else can I tell you? I remember when my sister Karen was born, I was 12. My dad gave us some money to go to the movies, my girlfriends and I. And we went to the movies. We came home in the afternoon. And about 4 o'clock, I guess it was, something like that. And they wouldn't let us in the house. So my uncle came with his little coupe that had a rumble seat in the back. Well, Nancy and Joni and I were in the rumble seat, and they took us down to Pottstown to my grandma's. And we just barely got down there, and my mom had my sister, so they told us, you have a new real dolly to play with, So we came home. And my mom had a flower. This was on a Friday because my mom had a wedding the next day. I can remember that. And she sat up in bed and made all those flower arrangements for the wedding the next day after having a baby. The next morning, she came down and she said, I want you to go in the bridal room and sit in that rocking chair, and I'm going to give you care. And she's all right now. She'll go to sleep for you. She says, I have this wedding to tend to. So she went to take care of the wedding. And she was only gone maybe an hour and a half, and she came back. But I think about her now, I think, my God, how could she get all that done, work like that, She did. The neighbor next door to us didn't even know my mom was pregnant. And she was surprised because I was sitting there with a baby, and she said, are you playing with dolls? I said, no. I said, this is my little sister. She hollered for her husband. She says, oh my God, Mildred had a baby. And the old Italian lady across the street, Mrs. Salvatore, she came over with her broom and she swept the house clean before my sister was born. She said there were one old spirits in the house. So she swept. And she made an Italian supper for us with rigatoni. She made a great big bowl of rigatonis so we'd all have something to eat because my mom was busy with a baby. So, yeah, we had some good memories there. There was a grocery store down around the corner from where we lived by the name of Andrew. And they never did a whole big business in groceries because it was a Greek store right on the corner from us, and they always did a lot more grocery business. But there was a big factory there. It was called Cotton Mill. It was a huge factory, A lot of people used to go down to Mr. Andrews' grocery store because he'd make up sandwiches for them. And he started getting really good at these sandwiches that he opened up a little restaurant across the street. He made the first Italian sandwiches in Reading.
Oh wow.
And that time they used hard salami instead of the cooked salami. And they were like 35 cents for, it was a meal and a half to get one of those. And we used to, Nancy, Jody, and I go down and we'd want peppers on ours, you know. They just give you the seeds on the sandwich. And we'd sit and see who could eat without complaining. We used to get that, and then if we wanted to go to Shadesky, the store where they sold magazines and cigarettes and pipes and stuff like that, we'd go in and get a Coke. They were a nickel at that time, and their bottles were only about that big. And we'd divide Nancy, we'd put our money together, we'd get a comic book for 10 cents, we'd get a bag of chips for a nickel, and of course the Coke was a nickel. And we'd all share. We never had to have our own, you know, we shared. So that was fun too. We had a penny machine there. You put a penny in, and if you were lucky, you got a nickel or a dime, you know what I mean? Otherwise, you get nothing, a penny or a nickel or a dime. So we always tried to get the dime so we could have some. And of course, then we moved from there. We moved on Neverseek Road. My mom bought they bought a Cape Cod house, and it was a nice little house. It had 2 bedrooms downstairs and an unfinished second floor. And of course, the boys, my brother Jack and Donald and Leroy and Bill slept on the second floor. My sister Kathleen and I slept in the 1 bedroom, and then my mom, Dad, and Karen slept in the front bedroom. And we lived there pretty long. I got married from there. A lot of other things probably that happened in between. I just can't remember them all right now.
What other memories do you have? Of school? What other memories do you have of school?
Catholic school I can remember because I was missing a lot in Catholic school. I quit school at 16. I just finished 8th grade because I missed so much school. And when I was going to Catholic school, in those days they didn't have tutors. And I didn't know nothing about nothing. And I was in the 5th grade at that time. And they passed you on age more than anything. When I came home, Sister Avelina was the teacher. And she was putting math questions on the board. And she called my name to go up and work on one. I just looked at it. I had no idea what it was about. You know, I didn't know what it was. And you know, because I didn't know, she banged my head on the blackboard and said, "Now I want you to think." Well, I couldn't think. I didn't know what it was, how to do it. So after that, I was just scared to death of math. I'm still scared of math. I can add, that's about it. I just can't do anything else.
Oh.
I don't know how to subtract. I don't know how to divide. That was on Pop-Up's job.
So those stories you always hear of nuns, they're true, huh?
Yeah. She was tough. But because I was sick, there was one girl. One time somebody must have thrown up in the hallway. They come running to me right away. I said, it wasn't me. Because I had gone out to take a note over to another nun. And when I came back, I saw it laying there on the floor. Whoever threw up a lot of stuff. Anyway, I went back to my classroom, and the next thing you know, another nun comes in, and they questioned me, and I said, no, I didn't throw up. And they were afraid to let me go home because they thought I threw up. It wasn't me. Charlotte went to Catholic school. She was a lot of fun. We used to go across the street from St. Paul's School, as her St. Paul's Catholic School. There was a little restaurant on the corner, and my mom would give it was 25 cents to get a meal over there. And I just wanted a bowl of soup the one time, and the man said, okay. He says, but I had to eat it all because he watched to make sure I ate it. Because my mom was always worried. So anyway, I ate it all, and then we got it to go back. So we went over and we got a pomegranate with Charlotte, and we opened it up. We were eating this. We were red from head to foot. We went back to school. But it was good. Gosh, yeah. Can you imagine paying a nickel for a pomegranate today? Oh, yeah. Those were the days.
Yeah, it was. So what about around the time you got married? What can you remember?
The time I got married.
Well, leading up to it.
Oh, yeah.
Guess courting, anything like that?
Yeah, I went out with different young men. And I remember one young guy, his name was Eddie. We were supposed to be engaged. Well, we got engaged. He wanted to get married, but I didn't. I really wasn't interested in getting married then. Anyway, he had rented an apartment and took me to show me the apartment. And that was the only time I was there. And I know the next time I came, the landlady was so surprised to see me. She says, I didn't think I'd ever meet you. Because he had already rented, and he would be there every day, just about. So finally we went in, and we went upstairs to our apartment, and he says to me, now, he says, I want you to go in the restroom, the bathroom, and take your clothes off and get ready. And I said, no. And he says, oh, well, all right. He says, then I'll go in the bathroom and change, and then you be out here ready for me. So he went in the bathroom, I snuck down the steps, and I ran down the street and got a bus, and went up. I don't remember where I went to. I don't know. I took a bus, and all I know is I went home. The next thing you know, him and his dad were there asking me for my ring back. So I said, all right, I can have it. I just couldn't marry him. I didn't feel like. And then Chuck, your grandpa came. That was different. We got engaged, and then he was going for 2 weeks training. And he says, now if anything happens and you don't want to stay married, stay engaged to me, he says, you throw the ring in the river. I said, no, I'm not doing that. So we got married. So our first date was January, New Year's Eve. Just before that, he had asked me to go to that, and he was working on my car in a garage. He worked for a garage then. And he said to me, hand me this tool, and I went to hand. I was afraid to hand it to him because I thought if we touch, I'll never leave him. And that was what happened. It was like sparks flew, and that was the end of it, and that was it. So I knew that was going to happen. We got married 6 months later. Got married in July 12th. And we were married 53 years till he died. We had ups and downs like everybody else. It wasn't a smooth marriage. It was ups and downs. So, but we had 5 kids right in a row.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. It is hot out here.
You getting a little
Yeah.
hot?
And that was it. Barbara Nissley will be dearly missed. She goes now to be with her loved ones that passed before. I truly hope you enjoyed this little piece of her as much as I have. I love you so much, Mama. Till we meet again.